Okay, we have another presentation. Dr. Moran is going to tell us about the changes and restructuring in our gifted and talented program.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks for the chance to present this for you tonight. We're really excited about talking about the Gifted and Talented program, or Talented and Gifted, as we call it now, to make sure the acronyms are all straight and aligned. So what we want to do is I want to kind of give you an overview of what's been going on since last year when I became, as part of my new job description, the supervisor for talented and gifted education here. Last year, we assembled a committee, myself and Ms. Gulick and I. We got together a bunch of different people in the district, and we asked a bunch of questions about talented and gifted education, right? And these were some of the questions we asked. You know, what are we doing well? Are there things we should take a look at now? And how do we continue to provide that targeted instruction for gifted students? Because TAG is, that's what it's supposed to be. It's targeted instruction, not just harder math problems or things like that. So we got together, we looked at the guidelines we have, we kind of tinkered with them and tweaked them, and we kept going back to this phrase, multiple measures, which is really important, obviously, when you're placing talented and gifted students. So that's how we place things. Parents will sometimes say to me, what's the cutoff score? And there is no cutoff score because we want to do the best we can to understand the whole child. So we look at running records, we look at math assessments. Next year we're going to add PARCC scores in as one of our ways of multiple measuring the student's progress. We also looked at the kind of students that succeed in TAG programs, and these are some of, I won't read through them all right now, but these are some of the qualities we found when you read about TAG students and when you look at TAG students in our district that they have. You know, how do they respond to setbacks? How do they persevere? How are they at self-regulating? How curious are they, right? Because you want to look at the whole child, and we found that provoked a lot of conversations. And so what we want to talk about, one more thing I forgot to mention, is that we looked a lot at time, because we didn't want students to be missing a lot of class time if they were in TAG, right? So how do you balance that? Because the schedules can be very, very tricky. So these are the questions that we had to ask ourselves. You know, how often do you provide this kind of instruction? Is it push-in or is it pull-out? Will it overlap with other specials? Because if you have a student who's in TAG, who also plays an instrument, who does other things, is the student ever in school? And then how do we use TAG to complement what we already have going on in our classes, which we think is great too. So we don't, it was a very, very fine balance we had to try to figure out how to maintain. And here's what we came up with. In grade 3, okay, there is no longer going to be a pull-out TAG program. The TAG teachers are going to push in to third grade classes once a week in social studies, and they're going to work with those students in their social studies classes, right? Another innovation we had was that each gifted and talented teacher will cover 4 buildings, and they have consultation time built into their schedules. So there's going to be time in a teacher's day when that teacher can meet with one of our TAG teachers and say, I have 2 students in here that I really need you to work with in social studies tomorrow. What are we going to do for these kids? Right? So that's something we're really excited about. In grade 4, students are going to get pulled out twice a week for 40 minutes at a time, and we're piloting a new program that I'm very excited about, so I don't want to speak too quickly when I start talking. But this new program we're doing in 4th grade is that the students are going to engage in an independent study project, and they're going to build research on that and eventually present that research. And there's a structure to it. It's not just, I like dinosaurs, so let's go read about dinosaurs, right? We're going to teach kids how to find out what you're passionate about, how to stretch yourself and not just do the thing you're really good at already, right? And we worked on that over the summer. We're really excited to see how that goes this year in grade 4. And in grade 5, students are going to be pulled out once a week for 80 minutes. And one of the changes is that there's going to be a full TAG program rather than just ILA or just math. In the past you could have been just TAG for ILA but not math, or vice versa, or maybe both. Now if you're a 5th grader and you're in the TAG program, you're going to go through 3 cycles. And one of them is going to be verbal, one's going to be math, and one's going to be science. And we're really excited about that too. In grades 6 and 7, right, we have more teachers now in the ILA department teaching these TAG courses. So we have a lot of new ideas coming in. We had workshops this summer. A lot of good collaborations going on. Things that haven't changed is that if you take Verbal Gate, that is your ILA class, and Math Prime and Algebra 1 replace Math 6 and 7. And that's what we came up with. We're really excited because it's already started this year.
Dr. Moran, could you just go back to the grade 3 push-in?
Sure.
Because I think that is the concept that might be the most unfamiliar to
Sure.
our parents. Could you give us a snapshot of what a push-in third grade tag class would look like?
Sure. Let me preface that by saying one thing that I think our teachers do extraordinarily well in this district is differentiate. They're very, very good at that. Everybody who's applying for a teaching job at the interview knows you have to say the word differentiation, right? You have to. But to really see it work, it's remarkable. Like it takes a lot of training and a lot of coaching and a lot of really good teachers to make that happen. So we talked about that, and we see it, and all the supervisors see it in the classes. So what third grade push-in means is that in social studies, for example, social studies teachers no longer stand at a smart board and just read slides or show maps, right? There's a lot of center work going on. There's a lot of collaborative learning going on. They read a lot, right? So there might be, say I teach third grade, and I have 3 students in there that because of their running records and other scores and other data I've accumulated, that those kids are clearly talented and gifted, right? And you come in as my tag teacher, that I might say to you during our consultation period the day before, you know, I have these 3 students, you know, A, B, and C, and that when we make groups tomorrow in social studies, right, I'm going to put them in a group, and I'd like you to work with those students, so that we can always keep differentiating and targeting the instruction for those students who need it the most, right? And that's what we mean by a push-in.
Okay, one more
Sure.
before I turn it over to the group. A lot of parents in this district get very concerned if their children are not placed in tag in elementary school. When you were a teacher at the high school, you taught a lot of honor and AP classes in 11th and 12th grade. So word of reassurance, I'm sure many kids came into your classes, AP honors, 11th and 12th grade, and did very well who were not in
absolutely.
tag. So if you could just
Absolutely.
reassure that the path does not start and end in third grade.
Every summer, we reevaluate every student. That is what August on the calendar. That's what August is about. Is reevaluating every student. And some students every year, you might go into tag, go out of tag. I mean, there's you know, there's no path forward to getting into AP. All right, and students go in and out of those courses all the time. And it's not that a door is shut, you know. You might be in the tag program in 5th grade, but then not be in verbal gate in 6th grade, but then you're in it in 7th grade, and maybe you take 8th grade honors, or maybe, I mean, there's no, it's kind of like a reset every August, because every August new data comes in, and the teachers give us more feedback too when we talked about those qualities for tag kids. So certainly, it's hard sometimes when you think, you know, you might be in and you're not, or something like that, but we do our best to place the kids where they'll be the most successful. Because that's our responsibility up until 8th grade is over. So it's certainly, you know, I would reassure anybody that it's not, no doors are shut as you move through the program.
Thank you. Lori, then Dr.
Sure, I have a bunch of questions. Do you want to go?
I just had one. You had mentioned something in the beginning about adding park scores to the
Yeah.
requirement. Is that going to be a required contribution to
No.
getting into tag, or is it just another thing you'll be looking at?
No, it'll be another piece of information. So it certainly wouldn't be held against the student.
That's all I'm getting
Yeah,
at,
yeah.
because there's some parents.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. You couldn't hold it against a student, but it's only one of the multiple measures. We try to get as much information as we can about every single student. So if that column is blank, then the column is blank. It's not a for or against or anything.
So I have multiple.
Sure.
So I apologize. Okay, so piggybacking on Vicki. So the push-in during 3rd grade during social studies, number one, I'm a big fan of push-in because I can tell you from experience that I had a child that was being pulled out during an area where it was not a weakness, but they weren't as strong
Right.
for an area where obviously she was identified as being strong, and that was always something that kind of bothered me. So,
Okay.
well, this gives me 2 questions then. So one question is, have we ever looked at having our tag programs before school? I know other districts have done that, where the tag program is done, you know, maybe early morning, like the kids are dropped off at 8 a.m. for chorus, so once a week the kids could be dropped off for tag. That's one question.
Okay.
Something to think about.
Okay.
You know. But then going back to the push-in, as I said, so that makes me, as a parent from experience, a big fan of pushing in versus pulling out.
Mhm.
But my question with the 3rd grade program is, they're pushing in during social studies.
Right.
So I'm assuming that that means the kids will be working on social studies. So my question then is, for the children that are accelerated in the ILA or the math, how are they getting, and are they getting any type of tag enrichment
Yes,
in third grade?
because they'll get those from their ILA and math teachers. So that's what I was trying to say before about
Okay.
differentiation. So
Okay.
their ILA teachers, I mean, they have targeted, their independent reading books are all different levels and things like that.
Yes.
And it's the same thing too with their guided groups in math.
Okay, so then the teachers, so the tag teacher's going to do just during social studies, and then
Right.
it's going to be up to the classroom teacher to, okay.
Right, to differentiate,
Okay.
right.
So there's that, okay, so that answers that, thank you. I apologize, I said I have a lot.
Don't apologize.
Okay. Then my other question is, going back to the pullout,
Okay.
now you're doing, for fourth or fifth grade, you're doing the 80 minutes?
Yeah, that's.
How is that for the verbal math and science? How is that going to be during the student's regular day? Because now my concern is going back to a student that's being pulled out during something where they miss instruction.
Right.
What are they missing? Are they missing verbal math and science? Is there any,
We tried really hard to make a schedule, right? And that schedule is always being adjusted.
Okay.
So that, because we wouldn't want a student to miss, you know, that's the whole irony of fifth grade.
Yeah.
Is that you're now, you know, you're really gifted at this, so we're gonna make you miss more lessons and stuff like that. So we don't want students to miss their specials.
okay.
So we have a master chart for every school about when the specials are and things like that. But there will be times where they might miss a lesson, but they won't miss a whole lesson.
Okay.
They might miss part of it. So we tried to build this in, and the teachers are really flexible too, so that the students don't all of a sudden fall behind.
And will it be like last year, for example, it was every Wednesday at 10:40?
Mhm.
Is it going to be the same time, or will you try and stagger it?
It's the
so
same
they're not-
time, but the teachers now, since we have the tag teachers, each one is at 4 buildings, they have more flexibility.
Okay.
So a fifth grade teacher could certainly say, why don't we do this later today? And they have enough in their schedule, they can flex things around.
Okay, because that goes back to my
Yeah.
original concern.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, that was a big thing we talked about in the committee, because and the teachers have to be flexible with their time, both the
Yeah.
classroom teachers and the tag teachers.
That's the thing, these are bright kids.
Yeah.
And they excel, but as you mentioned, we're not doing the math prime and the verbal gate
Right.
anymore in fifth grade, they're tagged. But if your strength is in one of those areas and you're being pulled out during the other,
Right.
and as I said last year, they would get sheets that the kids would be at the mercy of other students in class. So I
No,
know
we
for
don't wanna do
myself
that.
as a
We-
parent, my daughter would be pulled out, and then she'd be given a sheet that if the kid in class didn't fill it out or filled it out incorrectly,
Right.
this is what she had to study off of. So that's,
No, we wouldn't want,
So-
at no point should tag be something that becomes stressful for a kid,
okay.
or becomes like another quote-unquote job during their school day. That's not what it's supposed to be about.
No, I think you guys have done a terrific job in revamping this program, and especially, as I said, just the whole Pushin. So I thank you
Thanks.
for your time, I thank you for all this, and then my only parting request would be that we look into the possibility of possibly having this during non-school hours as a if it can be done. I know it's.
And Lori, just so you know, I'm thrilled you asked all these questions because we were presented with this in a curriculum committee meeting. And I thought it was important that the full board heard the complete story. And I was hoping that someone like you, who has children of this age in the school district, would ask questions like this, because these are the questions that so many of our parents in elementary school are going to have.
Yeah.
So, this is important stuff. Kurt?
I don't have many questions as Lori's does, but I do have questions.
It's
And I
fine.
usually-
Hello? Questions are good.
I
Good
love
questions.
the way, and you said it real quick, where you said more talented and more gifted. I think that's important for our whole school district, because all of our children are gifted and talented. I know that maturity levels change as children get older, where they would have maybe been good for tag in earlier years and later years, it's went by the wayside. And I'm encouraged by when you say that honors in high school is a playing field that's level again. Because I'm sure that there are students that did well, and then when they got to the high school level, their focus changed, and they were able to take the honors classes without having tag or gifted and talented all during the previous year. If we can, could you possibly put maybe, without putting any names together, the percentage of possible students that went through that with the idea that they never received,
Okay,
but were still able to do
That's-
that? I just want to know what was the percentage
Okay.
of that was. And I'm encouraged by all the things that we do for students, no matter what their levels are.
Thanks.
So Kurt, I'm going to reassure you again with my younger son, Zach, I'm really sorry. But Zach was not in TAG, any TAG classes, and he took honors classes in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. So, never was in it.
Well,
Yeah.
and that speaks well for our school district in general.
Absolutely, and I was going to say the same thing to you. It was funny when you asked for that request about the percentages. Right, I'll admit that right now I was thinking like, he wants right now. That I can't do on my feet. So it was good to know that that was a job coming up in the future.
We'll
Like
talk.
that we can do.
And
We'll
it's
talk
not
about
done.
the numbers.
Whenever I ask
No,
for
but that's a
something, it's
great-
at your convenience.
But I was going to say to you, as an answer to that, which is that it's true that you can go through East Brunswick and never be in TAG, never take verbal gate, never take one of the Beth Prime courses in Hammersholt, and take all kinds of honors classes and AP classes in high
Like
school.
I said, yeah.
It happens all the time.
That's why I'm encouraged with
Yeah.
the structure we have.
And it's like you said about how students, like, they mature and things at different rates. I mean, the old cliche that you hear is like, we know that kids don't all walk at the same time and don't
Right.
talk at the same time, and they don't all learn at the same time.
Right.
And so it's not an extra to get into an honors course at all.
Well, hopefully we all get to the same place at the end.
Yeah, that's the idea.
And I think there are also kids, younger kids, who might be academically able, I hate that term gifted, talented, but who are academically
We talk about that a
gifted,
lot,
but
too.
may not have that emotional maturity to take on an enrichment in elementary school. And again, like you said, there's so many factors, and this is such a carefully made decision that that's taken into account, that it should never become an item of stress or
Right.
discomfort for the child.
Right, yeah.
So, Barbara, thank you for waiting
Oh,
patiently.
sure. Thank you for your presentation. A quick question about fifth grade. So it's verbal, math, and science. So
Right.
does the child have to show a talent in all three areas? Okay, so if you have a child who's gifted per se in writing or verbal, but if they don't show them all those
We
three
have looked at their math
areas?
scores too, sure, yeah.
Ah, okay. So that's different from the year
Uh-huh,
before. And what was the thought process behind that?
Because we wanted to have a consistent program, and we also wanted students to stretch themselves too, because that was part of the fourth grade, the conversations we had that led to the fourth grade thing about trying to find something and stretch yourself. So it hurts when you hear a fourth grader say, well, I'm not a math kid, or I am a math kid, or something like that. So the idea was that, if you're truly gifted and talented, and we talked a lot, by the way, about that phrase too, which is problematic in a whole other bunch of ways, but we talked about that a lot. But if you are part of that very, very small percentage, right, then we want to see you be able to expand yourself and get that kind of targeted instruction.
And another suggestion I could make is also, I hear a lot from the PTAs, and, having been very active in the PTA myself, is that they'd love to hear more about the program. And I'm sure a lot of the PTAs would welcome you to come speak at a meeting
Okay.
to hear about it and to hear about the
Yeah,
changes.
there's 8 nights.
Or
That number I know.
or that we do have President's Council,
Correct.
so you could
So
do
it'd be
one.
one fell
Okay.
swoop.
And
at
again,
one
it could be a
time.
turnkey, they could bring it back
Correct.
to their,
Turnkey, I love that
to
word.
their.
No, because this is
I love that
definitely,
word,
I hear,
turnkey.
it's a hot
It's
topic,
even
and
better
people
than
are very interested to hear
It is.
about it. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Lori, another question?
Yeah, well, actually, no
Yay.
more of a comment this
No,
time.
good, go
So,
ahead.
no, actually, because this made me think about, one of the things, again, that I also like with the push-in is, I think just the same way that we're very conscientious about the children that are being pulled out for basic skills, you don't want to label children. I like the idea that the kids don't necessarily have to be identified,
Right.
which again goes back to the pull-out program, which is another little plug for my non-during school hours, so that children are made to feel either inferior if they're not in it, or superior if they are in it. So.
Right, and certainly, our tag teachers would never, if they're in a class and they're working with those students, and other students are going to need their help too and stuff, and they're certainly not going to say, well, I'm sorry, That will never happen. So I think that's why we like the Pushin so much.
I do,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
again, the other thing is you always have people in there, they're aides in classrooms,
Yeah.
or basic skills. So what's nice with the push-in is that
Yeah.
a student doesn't necessarily have to feel, as isolated, so.
Yeah, and those tag teachers have already been, they've already met with all the third grade teachers. They've consulted with them. They've been in their classrooms already. A lot, and they email me all the time, and I've gone to see them and stuff, so they're doing great stuff. They're forming relationships with the teachers too, instead of just popping into your classroom once a week. They form those relationships, so then they can sit and have that consultation time together and say, okay, what are we gonna do to help this student? And those are the conversations that are happening in the hallways and faculty rooms.
Lori, as we have discussions about curriculum in, against the background of our strategic planning, of the outcome of the strategic planning committees, I think that we can include in the discussion the scheduling of such, and
that'd be
the
great.
benefits, and also the downside of it. Our staff feels that there's real positives to be gained having it during the school day. We could hear both aspects.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know.
Anybody else? Thank you so much, Dr. Moran.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it.
Thanks.